Well, having talked about the term neoclassicism, now we shall go ahead with a discussion on some of the features of neoclassical criticism. So, the neoclassicists such as John Dryden, Alexander Pope, Samuel Johnson, etc., emphasize upon the classical values of objectivity, impersonality, rationality, decorum, balance, harmony, proportion, and moderation. Means in their writing, they take care of all these things. They emphasize on the writing with objectivity. Classical values, in their view, were objective. Objective means which is something which is not personal. No, it is not subjective. Opposite to subjective. Objective means wherein you keep yourselves away from that matter and then judge it. And even impersonality is also related to objectivity itself. Unless you have got the objective approach, you cannot become impersonal. Personal, and the antonym of personal is impersonal, something which is not personal. So they emphasized on, they insisted upon these values of objectivity. When a writer, a poet writes something, that should be objective. He should keep himself away from that particular subject matter. Then there should be impersonality, means the author's personal life should not be reflected in their writing or in his or her writing. There should be rationality. Now, what is rationality? Rationality means logical thinking. Okay, reasoning should be there. You should not accept everything or anything blindly. You should think before you act. That is what rationality is. So they insisted on rationality. They further favored decorum. The neoclassicists favored decorum. Decorum is a proper behavior, a decent behavior, or a decent kind of taste for something, we can say. We should like all good things. There should be decorum in our behavior, in our likes and dislikes. Means in a choice of language, the way we talk, the way we make the choice of words, etc. That is the matter of decorum. Now, for example, when you go to a wedding function or some other such kind of function, you try to follow the decorum. Means you try dress accordingly. You do not go in a shabby manner. So we behave in accordance with the decorum. Then they insisted on balanced approach, balanced attitude, balanced thinking, not taking side of anyone. You should have objectivity in looking at something. There should be harmony. Harmony means, a kind of, correlation or coherence. There should be logical connectivity. Then proportion. You should know how much to take. And moderation. You should be moderate enough. So all these were the values, ancient classical values. And neoclassicists thought that the writers, poets, etc., artists should follow, should inculcate these values. So these writers reaffirmed literary composition as a rational and rule-bound process. Now, what is a literary composition? A literary composition is any kind of literary work. It may be a poem, it may be a story, a drama, or a fiction, a work of fiction. So any kind of literary composition should have rationality. A literary composition is a work of rationality. It should have a rational, a logic behind it, a reason behind it, and it should be a rule-bound process. While writing a poet should follow certain rules. It's not that you feel like writing something and you write. It is a rule-bound process. You should know which words, that is, you should be familiar with poetic diction, the choice of words, which word is suitable in that context. You should be aware, familiar with the syntax, language structure, the rhyme, rhythm, meter, other poetic devices. So particular rules should be followed in writing that. And it requires a great deal of craft, labor. Labor means hard work, artistic approach, and even you should be a well-learned person, a highly learned person, in order to write a poem. No, Alexander Pope was very much angry with new poets because he thought that these poets do not follow rules. So when you read the poems of John Dryden, Alexander Pope, you will come across the use of irony and sarcasm. It is full of irony. They make fun of the new writers. In many of his poems, we come across, especially in Pope's poetry I'm talking about, because they thought that it is a kind of tapasya. Writing a poem means it's not that anyone can become a poet. In order to become a poet, you should know the rules of writing poetry. You should know this art, where writing a poetry is an artistic process. It requires hard work, labor, and even study. So the neoclassicists tended to insist on following things. First, the separation of poetry and prose. They tried to explain how poetry is different from prose, how poetry and prose are two separate forms, and how purity of each genre should be maintained. Poetry and prose are two different genres. They shouldn't be intermingled. The purity of each genre should be maintained. And even the hierarchy of genres was important for them. Which is superior and which is inferior. Okay, there was a kind of hierarchy. They believed in this hierarchy. So in this hierarchy, they placed epic above tragedy, something which is opposite to Aristotle, because Aristotle had placed tragedy above epic. But the neoclassicists placed the epic form of poetry above tragedy. For them, epic was the superior form of literature. For Aristotle, as you know, tragedy was the superior form. And two of the concepts central to neoclassical literary theory and practice were imitation and nature. Okay, these two concepts, two terms were important for them. They wrote about it and even they practiced it. Imitation. They followed the ancients and they insisted on the natural things. By nature, we mean natural. Imitation and nature were intimately related for them. Further, the imitation of classical models, especially Homer and Virgil, was very important for them. The neoclassical writers thought that in order to write better poetry, good poetry, the writers, the poets should imitate classical writers like Homer and Virgil. They were the models for them. Therefore, the term neoclassical is used. Neo means new and classical. Revival of this classicism is neoclassicism. So for imitation, they said we should follow classical models like Homer and Virgil. And by nature, two terms we are talking about. Nature for them is not just like the nature of romanticists, the idea of nature of romanticists, Wordsworth and others. Nature for them was the harmonious and hierarchical order of the universe. So whatever class system is there, social system is there, political hierarchy is there, that is harmonious. Harmonious means something which is in accordance with the nature. Susangat, that is the Marathi meaning. In coordination, we can say. The hierarchical order of the universe, including the various social and what we call, just a minute. Okay, so hierarchical order of the universe is important. It includes social and political hierarchies within the world. Further, the neoclassical writers generally saw the ancients such as Homer and Virgil as having already discovered. Okay? The ancient writers have discovered and expressed the fundamental laws of nature. They have already talked about everything. Then what is the duty of or responsibility of the poets of modern period, of their period? The external world, including the world of human action, could best be expressed by modern writers if they followed the path of imitation, which was already paved by the ancients, by the writers like Homer and Virgil. And it is the duty of modern writers to follow that path. We need not to construct any other path. So imitation is important for them. Further, the invention was allowed, of course. Yes, just now we said that they should not think of new things. They should follow the path of the ancients. But at the same time, they allow the invention. Invention means coming up with new things in poetry, in writing. Poetry means, I mean to say literature. But this invention should be in the form of modification of past models. It should not break away from the past role models. It should not be a kind of rupture. This modification should be just, modification. The invention, I mean to say, this invention should not be the breaking away, a rupture from these models, role models like Homer and Virgil. Simply a kind of modification can be done. Further, neoclassical thinkers could use the past as a guide for the present. For them, classicists were the guides. Homer and Virgil and other such writers. And the past of literature, means ancient literature, is a kind of guide for the present. Why? Because they assumed that human nature was constant, regardless of the time and place, we can say. Wherever we go, human nature is same, it is universal. And in their view, art should express this essential nature. Here I quote Samuel Johnson. Nothing can please many and please long, but just representations of general nature, unquote. So this is the quote by Samuel Johnson. What he says, art never changes. Art should express this unchanging nature. Because what he says, nothing can please many and please long, but just representations of general nature. Universal aspects are important. That can only please and last long. Further, the neoclassicists believed that an individual character was valuable for what he or she revealed of universal human nature. An individual character was valuable because what he or she revealed is of universal human nature. Therefore, every individual is universal, you can say, whatever they express. So here again, I would like to quote Alexander Pope to understand what they are trying to state. In his an essay on criticism, Pope writes, I quote, "True wit is nature to advantage dressed. What oft was thought but never so well expressed." So everything is there in nature. True wit is there in nature. It is already there. Just we need to express it. So neoclassical writers aim to articulate general truth rather than unique visioning. They did not respect individuality. They did not give importance to individual emotions like romanticists. For them, general truth, universal truth is important to communicate to others more than to express themselves. Okay, so poetry is not simply about expressing oneself. It is to communicate the general truth. So this is how we understand some of the features of neoclassicism.